Jesus said these words, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature? We can't do much about this world. We think we can. Until one day we wake up, we can't do a thing about it, because God is the sole doer. So that's why Jesus said that. All our involuntary actions, all our growth of the body, all the vegetative functions grow why, or are carried on why? Because God does it. We can't do a thing about it. He makes us think we have free will. We have very little free will. We do have free will to accept the giver, the sole doer, or to reject him. That he gives us free will in. But once through meditation of self-realization, you know that Father within. Feel his presence. Understand that he is the sole doer. You don't want any more free will. Because free will gives us lots of trouble. Free will gives us all the trouble. If we can realize, Father, thy will be done. I've had enough of this free will. Thy will be done. And with full security in him, full dependence on God, your troubles will cease. These are facts, and you will have security, and with that security, all the courage that you need. This comes through knowing God through faith. Jesus also said this, why take ye thought of raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Wherefore, if God so clothe the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe ye? O ye of little faith! We don't know God. That's the point. We must know him, and we know him through faith. And so we must understand and cultivate faith. This is very important. You must know faith. You must cultivate faith. And so let us understand the metaphysical aspect of just what faith is. We do not realize that. If we cultivate faith, we will have God contact. Having him, we will have all the courage we need. If God is with us, who can be against us? Remember that. Only do something about knowing him. Get the contact. Now, the metaphysical aspect of faith is this. The Sanskrit word for faith means what? Without breath. You say, what's that got to do with faith? It has this to do with it. When you're in the state where the breath has slowed down and ceased, then the intuition of the soul comes in and activates you, motivates your life, guides you. In that state, you know the presence of God. Whenever you have had intuitions of God, if you had noticed, you would have found yourself without breath. Because that's when faith comes. Now don't think you've got to hold your breath and go around not breathing. You can't do it anyway. But by concentration on the presence of God within, through the techniques of self-realization fellowship, your breath will slow down and you will know God within. Realize, isn't that a strange thing? The Sanskrit word for faith means without breath. Now you say, well, I just don't quite understand that. All right. Therefore, there are two states within us, one where we breathe and one where we don't breathe. I mean figuratively speaking. Now, the state where we breathe is the state of ego consciousness. And behind the ego is sensation, mind, intellect, and inference. Now, all our knowledge comes from that, in that state, is ego consciousness. It has ego consciousness behind it. But we know that state is unstable. We know everything which comes through sensation and through the mind and the intellect changes. We see this life change right before the vision which we have and right before our understanding. We know that is not the stable consciousness, is it? That's the state of consciousness with breath, ordinary breathing, going about and doing our daily duties. Now the other state is the state of consciousness whereby we are sustained through intuition of the soul. This other state of consciousness with breath is sustained by the evidence of the senses, mind, intellect, and influence. But the other state, the breathless state, is sustained by what? By the intuition of the soul within. And the intuition of the soul means none other than God's presence within us. So in that breathless state is where the state where we can understand things, because the noumena we understand in that breathless state. St. Paul said, I die daily. Now he died to ego consciousness, that's all. He didn't die as we take it ordinarily. He died to this state wherein we breathe of ego consciousness. But he was alive in the breathless state wherein we contact spirit through the intuition of the soul. Now that's what I mean. We have to understand metaphysically what faith is. Faith comes in the breathless state. In your meditations, those of you who meditate, you find your breath quiets down, and what do you feel? You feel the presence of God as bliss. But in outward ego consciousness, when you're running here and there, subject to the testimony of senses, mind, and intellect, how does your breath act? Fast as you can. How can God get in? How can you know Him? That's why it's so necessary to have a little time for meditation. Then you will know the breathless state. Then you will realize this state wherein faith is born. The state of breathlessness within. Now you won't die, don't worry. It's not as easy to die as that. You cannot die by holding your breath. So let's forget that. And if the breath slows down in the scientific way which the Master has left with us, you will find with it slowing down, with the oncoming of the breathless state, the great peace of God within you, you will have faith. And with that faith will come all the courage that you need. So the breathless state is not a state which should not be our own. It is not a state which we should be afraid of or shun. It's a state of consciousness which we should know. Because knowing it, we will know God is with us. And if He is with us, who can be against us? Many saints have had this breathless state. St. Teresa, St. Paul, as I have just pointed out. I die daily, St. Paul said. I protest by the rejoicing I have in Christ, I die daily. The rejoicing means the bliss of Christ consciousness which he had in the breathless state. He had faith. You see now?